and Danielle Utley from the Multilingual Pathways Department. And what a wonderful way to begin a workshop on multilingualism and language programs with the introduction from all of our interpreters today. I want to appreciate all of the work our interpreters are doing to make our programs and communications about our programs accessible to all families. If you could just take a moment, please, to sign in. We can follow up after the fair and share more information with you. There's a QR code. You can use your camera to access that sign in, or you can put the bit.ly URL into the internet address bar. So we welcome you to this workshop on our language programs. We're going to begin today by sharing an overview of our language programs K-12. Danielle, if you could go to the next slide. But we'll start by just grounding ourselves in the mission of San Francisco Unified School District, which is every day we provide each and every student the quality instruction and equitable support required to thrive in the 21st century. And given this mission, how apt that we're talking about programs that provide access for multilingual students and families. So we'll share our overview, and then again, we'll have some time for questions and answers, and share places where you can get more information and resources. So I want to begin by just sharing a little bit about the history of our journey to multilingualism in San Francisco schools. It's hard to imagine, but in our lifetimes, we began in my lifetime, 1975, there was an important Supreme Court case called Lau versus Nichols that stated that Chinese families had the right for instruction in English. And it was a groundbreaking, really seminal Supreme Court decision that has guided much of our work, not only in San Francisco, but in the nation, about access and equity for multilingual learners in schools. In 2008, we worked with the Department of Justice on a Lau consent decree that really outlined our current pathways and placement policies for multilingual students. At that time, we began to solidify our dual language enrollment programs, our biliteracy pathways, and our world language programs that were outlined in this consent decree. In 2010, along with many districts across the state, we adopted a seal of biliteracy. This was adopted by our school board. And this was a way to really celebrate students' multilingualism. It's a seal that goes on students' diplomas when they graduate, advocating and celebrating their multilingual proficiency. And then in 2015, the district adopted a vision for our graduates called Vision 2025. And this vision and strategic plan really articulated the qualities and the dispositions we aspire to for our graduate. And in that list of graduate profiles, names cultural competence and multilingualism. So you probably came here to this workshop today for many different reasons. And so I want to just think to yourself for a moment about what draws you to the idea of bilingualism and multilingualism. Why is that important to you? And what do you aspire to for yourself and your children with being bilingual? I'll just give you a moment to think about that and imagine in your mind what we want to hold on and what you want to hold in your heart as we think about programs that we offer and share with you our different models. Why are you drawn to bilingualism? And we know from research that there are many, many advantages to being bilingual. So maybe one of these ideas is what was striking you when you decided to come and learn more about our programs. We know that bilingualism promotes many academic advantages. And it's been proven to support focus and ability to tune out noise, to have better memory and problem-solving skills, superior listening skills, as well as judgment. It also supports a student's and people's social, emotional, and wellness, in that it improves your mental well-being. It supports cultural pride. And for many people, bilingualism is a job skill. People who are bilingual earn more money and have advantages in the workforce that because of their multilingualism. So think about why you're interested in an SFUSD language program as we share with you the different models that we have in our programs. So now I will pass to my colleague, Miguel de Losa.
Thank you, Amy. I'm sorry that my camera is not working today, but I'm just gonna move forward with this presentation. So the academic goals for all programs is to have proficiency in the language, in the target language that you want your child to learn, but also in English, because that's why we call biliteracy or bilingual programs. And we base this on the state standards. Next, please. So you probably wonder, what are the different offers that we have in SFUSD? And we had 3 in elementary, dual language immersion program. And this offer is like students start with 80% of instruction in the target language, and it decreases by 50-50 in 5th grade. So the student population, or the students' demographics, or the students' language proficiency in this program is 2/3 of bilingual students, which is about 13 students in the classroom in kindergarten, and 1/3 of English-only students, which is 9 students. Elementary biliteracy, on the other hand, is only for native speakers of that language. And they had to be potential English learners, and they had to speak the home language of the program. The other offer that we have, and is more new than the other 2, is the world language in elementary school. And we have 3 to 5 days a week, 30 minutes for all enrichment language for all students. Next, please. Thank you. So another way to see this is like what program you should apply is think about your child. And if your child speaks Cantonese, Mandarin, Korean, or Spanish as a native speaker, they can apply to a dual language immersion program. If you want your child to speak one of those languages because he or she only speaks English, you can apply as an English speaker to those languages. For biliteracy programs, again, are only for Cantonese or Spanish native speakers. For world languages, any child can apply to this offer. Thank you. Next. So here's a distribution of the different language programs that we have across the city. Biliteracy programs, we have 11 Cantonese programs in the schools, 13 Spanish biliteracy programs in SFUSD. For dual language immersion programs, we have 4 Cantonese, 9 Spanish, 1 Korean, and 2 Mandarin. For world language programs, we have 4, 2 Japanese, 1 Arabic, 1 Vietnamese, and 2 Filipino programs in 80 schools. Amy?
Okay, so I'll share a little bit about our secondary programs. In middle schools, we have several different types of language programs. First, we have secondary dual language immersion. And I saw a question related to this. What immersion looks like at the secondary level is 1 class period of target language arts, so Spanish language arts, for example, or world language. and 1 period normally taught in social studies in the target language of the program. And these programs are designed for students who are rising from our K-5 dual language immersion programs or biliteracy programs. So they merge and they're in a program together in the middle grades. Students may also take an assessment at EPC if they were not in a K-5 program to determine whether or not they're eligible. We also have secondary advanced world language programs. And these programs have just 1 period of advanced, or really it's an intermediate level world language class. And like the secondary dual language programs, these are for students rising from the elementary dual language immersion or biliteracy programs, or who pass the EPC language assessment. And then lastly, we have secondary introductory world language classes. More schools with the Initiate Wonder middle school redesign, more schools are adopting a 6th grade exploratory wheel. And so students would take 1 trimester of exploratory world language in 6th grade, and then have the opportunity to take the world language in 7th and 8th grade. I can also share that for all students taking world language in 7th and 8th grade, they do receive high school credits. So you can see here, we have programs across the city in middle schools for Spanish, Cantonese, and Korean. And then we have secondary advanced world language programs in Mandarin. And we have programs that we teach an accelerated Mandarin course. It's Cantonese transfer to Mandarin. The Cantonese and Mandarin have some of the same written language. And so the focus of that is on speaking and listening from Cantonese to Mandarin. And that program is offered at several schools now, Martin Luther King, Roosevelt, and Marina. And then lastly, we have, again, these programs that are introducing world language students who did not study them in elementary schools. And we have Arabic, Spanish, and Japanese currently. In our high schools, we have a robust portfolio of languages across the city. There's 10 languages currently being taught in San Francisco high schools. The goals of these programs, of these courses, are to really develop students' intercultural competence, as well as advanced levels of communicative proficiency, with our goal of students becoming multilingual to prepare and earn the California Seal of Biliteracy, and lastly, to prepare them for college and for career readiness. The Seal of Biliteracy, again, which is earned in students' senior year, and it's a seal that goes on their diploma. It's awarded by the state from the California Department of Education, demonstrates that students have proficiency in both English and in a language other than English. And there's several ways that students can meet that criteria. Next slide. We're going to watch a short video of some of our SEAL earners, and these are students who went through our K-12 language programs, and they will share with you what multilingualism and bilingualism has meant to them.
There's no sound.
Danielle?
Amy.
Danielle, I think you have to fix the sound.
I apologize. Let me get that going. Let me see.
African Americans, you wouldn't see
Does that work?
them speaking another language, especially Spanish or something like that.
That works. Can you start it from the beginning?
Okay, let me start from the beginning. Apologize, everybody. Here we go. Boy, what did I just do? Sorry, bear with me for these technical difficulties.
for people in general, I feel like it helps connect the world as a whole through other languages, because especially now in this time, we're more connected than ever, but simultaneously really disconnected. And I hope
Lost the sound again.
Why don't we post a link to this video? Okay.
It's like getting a future, so I can get a good job, because knowing more than one language helps you get good jobs.
Overall, I feel like being bilingual is important. It definitely opens new doors for like applying to jobs. Speaking two languages like really important, and I feel like interviewers are looking at that.
it's important for me because it will make my mom proud that she knows that I understand English and Spanish, and I'm still connected to my roots, and that I will never lose my Spanish.
Being bilingual is important, and I think that more people should be bilingual because it fosters connection between different cultures.
I think that means that all the sacrifices that my mom has made, this is the reward, the award, right? It's a skill that not everyone has, and I got it because I know how to speak two different languages.
Like, wow, like he really did something. But it's like he went the extra mile. He went to go chase something that he felt would help him in the future. So you just dedicate yourself. If you really want to do something, you can do it. It doesn't really matter how hard it is.
Thank you for bearing with our technical difficulties. This video really demonstrates the scope of our programs. A student who is bilingual in Japanese, students who are bilingual in Spanish, and students who are bilingual in Mandarin. Okay, now we'll shift to the eligibility and enrollment practices for these programs.
Thank you, Amy. So you're wondering probably how your child could be eligible for this program in kindergarten and first grade, especially dual language immersion programs. And as I explained before, that there is a balance of 2/3 of the students and 1/3 of English only students in these languages. And when your child applies and it speaks that language already, they will be assessed either in Cantonese, Korean, Mandarin, or Spanish to demonstrate their proficiency in that target language. If your child only speaks English, they still have the chance of the offer to apply for this program. For 2nd to 8th grade, any student applying for elementary dual language program or biliteracy or second language program, they had to demonstrate grade level proficiency in the target language assessed, Cantonese, Korean, Mandarin, or Spanish. All the language assessments will be done by the Educational Placement Center, EPC, as we know it. Grades 1, kindergarten, and first grade are assessing oral language fluency and listening skills, while 2nd to 8th grade, they need to demonstrate literacy skills according to the grade level that they're applying. When you apply for this, EPC will contact the families and would schedule a time to do the assessment. You can always call the EPC center or email them to request a test. Remember that applicants that declare in the home language survey response that they speak the target language, they will be assessed in that language. Same with grades 2nd to 8th grade. All applicants are assessed or tested. Please consider the home language survey, because once you declare that you speak another language at home, your child could be a potential English learner. That means that your child is now proficient in English and will be assessed with an initial LPAC. The LPAC measures the proficiency in English. Your home language is English only, but your child is bilingual, because it could be in a preschool already and they speak the language fluently, please let EPC know that you want the child to be assessed in the target language while doing the application. The main run application deadline is February 4, 2022. And now we have time for questions and answers.
This is the Cantonese interpreter. I just saw a question posted in Chinese on the chat. So shall I read the question to you now?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to apply for my kid to kindergarten, and if I want my kid to be in the dual literacy, do I need to bring my kid to interview in person? That's the question. Thank you.
Yes, you're applying for, you don't need to bring your child. You just need to apply first and then make an appointment to later be assessed the child, but it has to be in person. That is correct.
I have a question in the Q&A for you. So from your chart, it looked like in middle school, the secondary dual language program only has 2 periods per week, whereas the secondary advanced world language program looks like it has 50 to 60 minutes of instruction 5 days per week, 3 more classes per week. Is that correct? If so, it looks like the secondary advanced world language program is more robust intensive. Is that correct? Thanks.
Thank you for that question. The secondary dual language immersion program has 2 courses in the overall schedule. Schools are organized with their bell schedule differently. Most middle schools now are on a block schedule, which means they may have all of their classes, 6 or 7 classes on Mondays, and then they would have 2 classes or 3 classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and their other set of classes on Wednesdays and Fridays. So it's rare to see a middle school right now in SFUSD that has every class every day. So those classes, when they only meet 2 times a week, they meet for longer periods of time. So the dual language immersion has 2 courses, and the advanced world language has 1 course.
I have another question for you. Can we apply both biliteracy program and dual language immersion programs?
Yes, if your child is a speaker of that language, you can apply for both programs. But if your child only speaks English and wants to learn that target language, only apply for dual language immersion.
When will the language tests be scheduled? And will they be via Zoom or in person?
It will be in person, and you had to call EPC to make an appointment for that.
Actually, I can add another detail if that's okay, Miguel.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so when families apply online, we will send out an email to all of the families with a link to schedule their own appointment. Any families that don't schedule their own appointment, we will call and help them schedule an appointment. Families are, of course, welcome to call us to get their appointment scheduled.
Thank you, Lauren.
This is Laura, Cantonese interpreter. We have a few questions in Chinese in the chat. The first question is, my child speak Cantonese at home. So if I apply, if my child apply for high school, can he get like a Mandarin assessment?
Can you restate the question? Is it about assessing for high school?
Oh, okay. The question is, my child speak Cantonese at home, but for high school, it said the assessment, the language assessment will be conducted in Mandarin.
Which program are they applying to? If they're applying to a Cantonese program, the assessment will be conducted in Cantonese. And if you're applying to a Mandarin program, the assessment will be conducted in Mandarin.
I have a logistical question in the chat about the recording sessions, because I know this is a lot of information for families. How soon will we have these available on our website? Communications team.
The recording can be posted next week, and the translated slides for this will also be next week.
Thank you, Susan.
Okay.
There's a hand raised. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. This is Laura again. There's another Chinese question. And the question is, my child is in 5th grade right now, and he speak Cantonese and Mandarin. I want to know when he applied for middle school, is it possible that for him to also apply for the Spanish language program?
If he takes an assessment at EPC and to assess whether or not his Spanish language proficiency is, if he has enough proficiency for the Spanish immersion pathway, the dual language immersion pathway in secondary, or the then he can apply. Then he will be eligible for the Spanish. But there are schools that are teaching introductory Spanish, and that's not a pathway. It's not an enrollment pathway. That's an elective that's offered at those schools. So there's not a way to apply for those schools other just the general education program. And then once you're in the school, you sign up to take the classes.
Amy, could you list the middle schools that have the Spanish as an elective?
Yes, Roosevelt Middle School, Presidio Middle School, Visitation Valley Middle School, and Francisco. Francisco will have Spanish. There's been we lost a teacher earlier in this year, but the plan is for Francisco to have a Spanish elective world language course.
We have some hands raised. So I believe, Kevin, you are unmuted, so you can go ahead and ask your question, please.
Oh, hi. Yeah, I submitted a question actually on the Q&A. And I think, is it Jin Pine? Her somewhat answered it, but I still have question because my daughter, we live in the East Bay. We are actually going to go through the inter-district transfer process to San Francisco district, because my wife and I both are healthcare worker. We both work in the city. So we are trying to apply for both the Cantonese biliteracy program and the language immersion program for those schools. So my question is, because my understanding is San Francisco district will not review inter-district, transfer application maybe until 5 or 6, I think 5 weeks before the school start. So when will the interview for those program will be scheduled in that scenario?
Yeah, I can follow up with that question. So our office usually process interdistrict application during the summer. So when we're reviewing your application, that's when we'll also schedule the appointment for you. Does that answer your question?
I think so, but I wasn't sure if I was clear when I find out that the application would not be reviewed, I think 5 weeks before school start. So I guess that's still considered around summertime. So yeah, thank you.
We have another question from Kathleen Reed. Please go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great, thank you. I appreciate your, Amy, your response about the two different language programs. I just wanted to clarify. So is it the same number of days per, hours per week for the whatever that language is for the secondary dual language immersion and the secondary advanced world language? Are they basically both of those programs spending the same number of hours per week learning the language, whatever that target language is?
The number of minutes varies by school.
I see. Okay.
But the secondary dual language immersion program has 2 periods and the advanced world language has 1. So
Got
the
it.
secondary dual language has more. It's more in most schools.
Yes.
It's more.
Okay, that helps.
Yeah.
And then I had a few other questions just regarding like feeder schools and also like Cantonese versus Mandarin. My daughter goes to Garfield right now. She's been doing Cantonese immersion and they started a little bit of Mandarin, in 4th and 5th grade. Does she get tested for Mandarin or Cantonese? And then also, I was wondering about feeder schools, whether we're interested possibly in Marina or Roosevelt. Are those programs different? Do they have both Cantonese and Mandarin in middle school or just one? And so just to understand that a little bit better.
Sure. Yeah. So those programs are the same. We offer an accelerated Mandarin course, and we call it accelerated because it's designed for students that are coming in with Cantonese proficiency from elementary school. And so it's kind of a bridge to Mandarin. We no longer offer the Cantonese social studies at Marina, nor at Roosevelt. We tried after we weren't able to find a bilingual social studies teacher at Roosevelt. We tried math for a while and we lost that teacher. So really staffing has been our biggest obstacle in continuing our immersion programs at the secondary level. And so we've switched to this secondary advanced world language model in order to maintain and continue the language study, but the content is all taught in English.
Got it. So the ideal would be to have a second course, whether it's math or social studies or something in that target language.
It's a different model.
Okay.
If some people may want to continue studying at the advanced level in the content, there are pros and cons. It's very hard to find instructional resources that are aligned to our California state standards. It's also very hard for students to really do the level of academic work if their language skills are not really up to grade level. So, there definitely are pros and cons. At this point, though, it's not something that we can adequately staff to run solid programs that exemplify that model.
Got it. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
We'll take the next question from Marian Oman, please.
Yeah, hi. In schools that have both a biliteracy pathway and a general education pathway, what do the racial demographics for each pathway, or what are they? Is it possible to find that information for each school on the SFUSD website? And I guess sort of what I'm really getting at is, if I go to send my kid to a school that has both biliteracy and a general education pathway, does it end up being segregated because of the kids that are going to each pathway?
That's a great question. I don't know if the communications department knows if they can find that that information in any website. But yes, bilingual education is just students that are either Chinese or Latinx students, Latino students. But if the other half of the school is general ed, then you will have a mix of students, because anyone can go to general ed. So I don't know, you're looking for a particular school, but I think that the state has all that information.
So the information is public?
It should be public for
Okay.
sure. Yeah.
And I've seen racial breakdowns for different schools, but I'm not sure if I've seen it per program. Do you know if you've seen that, or is that available?
If you are asking for biliteracy, the answer is they're either Chinese or they're Latinos, because they don't mix.
I guess for a school that has the general education program, can I find the racial makeup of just the general education program?
Yeah, that information should be public. I think I've seen it in some places, but the state, what is that cards, Amy? Do you remember that website where they have all the information about all the school sites?
Is it at the dashboard? Is that what you're talking about?
Thank you. That, yes.
Or the data quest. It says a state website that has
Yeah.
data information on public schools.
Mhm.
I would just add to the one kind of small piece of information that about our schools that have multiple pathways is that, you know, there are opportunities for students to integrate throughout the school day. So they might have most of, you know, their instructional time in Spanish if they're in a Spanish biliteracy pathway. But during, you know, electives, during recess, during lunch, there's opportunities for students to integrate. And when they get into the upper grades, I'd say there's more opportunities because more of the day is in English.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, Susan, go ahead. Sorry.
Are there questions in Q&A you want to address?
Yeah, there was a few FAQs that I just want to go over real quick, if that's okay. We've got a few families asked about if their child is already attending a Spanish or, well, an immersion program, if they still need to be assessed. The answer is depending if your child is attending a SFUSD immersion program. If your child is attending a SFUSD immersion program, you don't need to be assessed. But if your child is attending a private or charter, if you're attending an immersion program in a private or charter school, then the EPC will reach out to you to submit to schedule an appointment after you submit the applications. Along with that, there are also questions about if you can schedule an appointment in advance, like before you submit an application. The answer is no, because we do need to review your application first to determine whether or not we need to assess your child. So after you submit the application, the Educational Placement Center will reach out to you to schedule an appointment. And you can feel free to revise your application if that's your concern, because after your child's been assessed, you can always revise your application by the deadline of February 4th. That's it.
Thank you. We have a hand raised from Rajni Banthia. Rajni, if you would like to ask, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I was just unmuting myself. I have two questions. So will we get the findings of the language assessment like on the spot if our child tests fluent? Or do we find out at a future date? We will find out. Okay, wonderful. And then my second question is, so we're applying for kindergarten. We speak English at home, but my daughter has been attending a Mandarin immersion preschool for 3 years. So she's completely fluent in Mandarin. She's fully bilingual in English and Mandarin. We're not Chinese, so she's not technically a native speaker, but I've been told, you know, by her preschool that she talks like a native speaker, and they believe that she should test fluent as a native speaker. So on the application, she doesn't need to be classified as an English learner because she's fluent in English, because that's all we speak at home. So do I classify her as a native Mandarin speaker? And we are definitely applying for the Mandarin immersion programs. So that's why I'm asking.
So that's a great question. So if your home language is English, but your child also speaks Mandarin or any other languages, you can request for a language assessment. So after you submitted the application with us, please email us, and then we'll be able to schedule a time for your child to do the language assessment.
Okay, but she can still be considered a native speaker, even if we don't speak Mandarin at home. She could be still considered a native speaker as long as she passes the test.
Yes, if your child is assessed and she's determined she's fluent, then yes, she'll be considered as a native speaker.
All right, wonderful. Thank you.
This is Laura.
Go ahead, Laura.
I have a question. The question is, my child is prepared to apply for first grade, and basically he speak Mandarin and sometimes speak Cantonese. Sometimes speak English. Yeah. So is it for he to apply for the first grade? Is it he need to apply the general ed and also apply the language pathway program?
I think that's a decision for the parent. Do they want it to go to a dual language immersion school in Mandarin? They can apply for those programs. If they just wanted to go to the general ed program, which is all in English, then they apply to that. So the parents can decide if they want to continue with education of the child in the target language, they can apply to a dual language program, in this case, Mandarin.
I have a question in the chat that has now been asked twice by the same person. I just want to make sure we get to it. Are there any Spanish immersion TKs in our district?
Unfortunately, no, we don't have those.
We have time for 2 more questions. I'm going to ask Dianis de Jesus to talk.
Hi. Yeah, I'm still a little confused about what program will be best for my daughter who is bilingual. She will be entering kindergarten. We are a bilingual family, so she moves fluently between English and Spanish. And I don't know which one would be the best fit for her. And the second part of the question is if we can only apply to these programs or we have to have a broader, choices in the application process.
Since your daughter is bilingual and fluent in both languages, you can apply to all the different programs, dual language immersion, biliteracy, or the world language. You want her to speak another language. Let's say you want to apply to the Arabic program or go to Reading and learn Arabic too. So yeah, more families are raising their the children bilingual since they're younger. And we see a rise of the children moving in 2 languages very easily. So yes, you can apply practically to any program, even if you want to go to.
Our focus would be that she is reinforced in the Spanish.
Okay.
So because obviously the context of the country is all English. So how, if we want to just focus on that, which one would be the best program?
You have 2 choices: dual language is immersion in Spanish or biliteracy in Spanish. And it will be a question of what school would you prefer or what is the neighborhood where you live. So those 2 choices are
okay, sorry. The last part of that is that would she, living in the neighborhood of the school, help her get in the program that we want, or is not necessarily?
That's a great question. Lauren, are you still here? Because there are tiebreakers too, that apply to many different, when you apply to a school and the school is in high demand, then there's a series of tiebreakers that happen.
That's right. Dianis, would you ask your question again, the last one?
Yeah, so because our focus is for her to reinforce her Spanish, if we were to be living in a neighborhood with, where the programs that we want are, would that help her, get in easier or in priority or something?
Great question. So the priorities that are related to where you live are the attendance area one. So you should look on the school finder tool to figure out which school is your attendance area school. And you'll have preference at that school in whichever pathway you apply. So it could be general ed, it could be biliteracy, or it could be immersion. The other tiebreaker related to attendance area is about CTIP. It's about areas in the city where there are low test scores. Jean P, can you drop in the chat the place where families can go look up if they live in a CTIP area by address?
Yep, on it.
Thanks. So Diane's, Jean P is going to put something in the chat where you can type in your address and you can see where you have different tiebreakers. So you'll see if you have a CTIP tiebreaker, and you'll also see what your attendance area tiebreakers are.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
We will take one last question from AWH.
Thank you so much. My question is, since there are only 2 Mandarin dual immersion programs in the city, and I saw that the question was answered live, but I didn't hear it. Are there percentage admission data available on the website of the schools or no?
I'll answer that question. So what we have available for the language programs is on the EPC website, sfusd.edu/enroll. If you look at the subheading called student assignment, you can look at the main round highlights. The main round highlight section has the number of requests for each seat in the language programs. And I see you, Leah, just dropped it in there maybe.
Is that divided by English learners versus the 2/3 and the 1/3?
I actually haven't looked at it in a little while, so I don't know the answer to that question. It is likely just by pathway.
Well, we have to end the question. I'm gonna put some resources into the chat for people who still have remaining questions, but I'm going to ask our presenter to please close this out, please.
Amy, you want to go ahead?
Sure. I just want to encourage people in the last slide of our slide deck, which will be shared on the website. You can find more information about the programs, descriptions of the programs, and a list of which schools where you can, particularly if you're looking at the high schools, for example, that information is not in the school finder, but you can find out which high schools teach which languages. And then if you're looking for your K-5 schools and want more information about which schools teach which languages or have which programs, there are some wonderful, the school finder tool on the website, you can search by language. And so you can find out where those schools are located and more about those programs. So here you see on our websites information for English language learners and our language pathways. And I believe that is the end of our presentation. I want to appreciate you all so much and your questions, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Sorry for the very last interruption. And this question was posted by the parent numerous times, and she wondered is the language assessment for high school consists of writing?
So there's an in-house assessment it's given in the 8th grade that we've used in the past. During the pandemic, we used an assessment that was more of a survey and used students' grades from their world language or immersion class in middle school to recommend placement for high school languages. If you're coming from outside of SFUSD, the high schools themselves do assessments for if you're coming with language proficiency. Many of our high schools offer native courses, native Spanish, world language classes, courses designed for native speakers of Chinese as well. But those assessments are done in-house at those schools.
Thank you all so much for attending today's session. We do have to end it so we could start the next one. And so if you have any more questions, there's a contact us link in the chat where you can call or email for more questions. Thank you all.